Good evening. Today is Monday, April 23rd, 2019. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Education. If we could please start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome tonight. We have just come from executive session. We have not adjourned executive session because we will be returning after our meeting to discuss a legal issue. And we're going to start with comments from the board. Pete?
Good evening, everybody. How are you? I don't actually have any specific comments tonight. I know we have a pretty lengthy agenda, so I'll just pass on to the next.
Cynthia?
Just welcome back, everybody, from vacation. I'm on vacation this week, so I'm feeling like if I seem a little bit in vacation mode, that's where I am. And I can't believe already we're in the ending of the school year.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for those who are in our attendance and those for tuning in at home. Just to reiterate what I've said in the past over the last month, really important time in the school year. There's a lot going on. We have a capital project right now. We have the budget. So I think it's really important. We have the vote coming up. I think it's really important for those that are paying attention to come out, be heard, make yourself present. Don't do it by email. Come to the public meetings. Participate in the discussion. All right, I think we'll make a lot more headway that way than by emails and conversation and innuendo. And just kudos to the PTA. A couple of weeks ago, they had their spring social. I did not mention it at last meeting. It was a very nice event, well attended. They did a good job, as always.
Thank you, Rob. I wanted to just two quick things. One was I wanted to thank Mrs. Ferguson. She's the head of our middle school GO, amongst many other hats that she wears, and she spearheaded a tour for a group of us at Quaker Ridge Elementary School to observe and learn about their zero waste recycle program. And I don't know if those of you who remember a few years back, we did start a recycle program here at Tuckahoe, and Mrs. Ferguson is really enthusiastic about making some really great strides and involving the students in it. I attended along with Mr. Albano and Mr. Marash and Mr. Stiefel, and our head custodian at Caudill, Tammy Warren, was there, and the students of the GO, of the middle school GO. And so it was really great to have everybody there. And our kids were amazing, I have to tell you. They were attentive, they were watching, they were taking notes, they were asking questions, and it was just so great to see their enthusiasm and their wanting to bring this to Caudill and to take a leadership role in doing this. So I really look forward to the presentation that's going to be coming to the board from Mrs. Ferguson, and also, to see whatever we can do as a board to support the efforts, because I really think it's an amazing program, and I think it's great that she's bringing it to us. Also, 2 weeks ago, the board had a tour of Caudill, the middle school and the high school, and that's mandated by our board policy. We do it once a year. I want to thank Mr. Albano and Mrs. McDonald, Dr. McDonald, for bringing us really such, it was so enlightening actually to see the technology, the interaction, what was happening in the classrooms. It was so impressive. It also gave us an opportunity to see the facilities and the state of our facilities, and it was really very, very insightful. I would hope that in the future we could do it actually more often, because what we learn in those tours I really think is such great information. So I want to thank again Dr. McDonald and Mr. Albano for that, and the building principals who led us, and were also very enthusiastic about what they were showing us, and very proud, and it was really, really a great morning, and I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to do it. Again, we do have, as Pete said, a lot on our agenda with our capital project and with our budget tonight to be adopted, so I'll hold the rest of my comments for that. Carl?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. First, I'd like to just open with some wonderful student recognitions. Big congratulations to juniors Sarah Kaufman and James Leffer. They both are National Merit Scholarship candidates, which means they scored at the top 3% among 1.6 million students on the PSAT. Nationwide. So we are very proud of them, and we wish them well with continued success academically. I also would like to big congratulations to Malik Moore. He was named first team All-State for boys basketball, and Makai Clark was named 7th team All-State for boys basketball. These are very, very impressive accomplishments. That news just came in hours ago, but it's an amazing achievement, and really big congratulations to all 4 of those high school students. We're very proud of each one. I'm glad to see a good audience here. This is the 4th public budget presentation that we've made as a district. The process begins, around December, actually, goes throughout January and February. It starts more internally, but then, of course, we start to present publicly. And this evening, the board is considering adopting a recommended budget that I have proposed, and I've done a narrative on the budget, but we will have Ms. Liu review the financial piece of it one more time. But first, I saw the district's architect, Russ Davidson from KG&D Architects, just stepped in, and he is here to give us an update on the capital project. Some good things happened over the spring recess break. One was just more practical need that the district had, which was to create a temporary parking lot on the Caudill field. Approximately 50 cars can park there. That will be mostly Caudill staff members. The reason we needed to do that is Siwanoy Country Club, for many, many years, has allowed us in a reciprocal arrangement. They've allowed us to use their parking. As you know, the elementary school has very little faculty parking, but they are doing a capital project simultaneously as we're doing ours. And May 1st they will begin. They'll have a lot of machinery, and we are being displaced. So we needed to have a parking space for our staff, and that is the purpose of that parking lot. Also, you will notice that there was fencing that has gone up. Kid safety was first and foremost. There's fencing between the parking and the field. There's also fencing to fence off the back part of the building where we're bringing in heavy machinery and preparing the building for that second-story addition, which will happen immediately after school is let out. The teachers are hard at work. I thank our staff. They're packing up their classrooms even from now. Many of them came in over the break on their time, and it's a real collaborative effort. There's a lot of work, and there'll be some discomfort, but the end result, by January or February next year, we will be cutting the ribbon on a beautiful, exciting new addition to Caudill, as well as some other work that's being done throughout the district. So on that note, I will refer back to Michelle, who may want to introduce Russ and have him first.
Do you want to start with Russ now, or do you want to finish with Russ? Okay, sure.
Right, and then we can get into budget after that, maybe.
Sure, Russ.
PTA?
Yeah, we'll
the
have the
comments,
PTA and
yeah.
Tuckahoe with that.
I am sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. Oh, Ms. Newman is here. I'm sorry.
Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Newman, Vice President of the PTA, here to report on our activities of the past month and the coming month. We want to thank everyone who came and supported our spring social. It was very successful. We're grateful to all the administrators, parents, families, and local businesses who donated their time, money, and services for our raffles, which helped, the proceeds of which helped fund many activities for the PTA for the school year. This next week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and it's our way as the PTA of thanking every faculty member and teacher who supports our students day in and day out. We'll be holding breakfasts and lunches at all 3 schools, and we have some fun activities and surprises planned all week long. A reminder to all seniors that the PTA scholarship application deadline is coming up on Tuesday, April 30th. On May 1st, we're going to be holding an executive functioning workshop, the Can-Do Child. This is a rescheduled program that was canceled due to snow, but please look for details about this program, which is meant to provide parents with strategies to support all students regardless of ability. This meeting will be held in this room at 7:30, and all are welcome. Bubble Mania is coming back to Caudill School on May 3rd. The students will get a presentation during the school day, but there's also a family presentation that's open to all students, parents, and siblings at 7 p.m. at the Caudill Auditorium. Also at Caudill School, the Spring Boutique will be held on May 7th and 8th. This is a great opportunity for the kids to shop for Mother's and Father's Day gifts. The circus is coming to town with our 3rd graders at Caudill starting circus activities the week of. Well, everyone at Caudill will be participating in circus activities, and then the 3rd graders will have their performance on May 17th. And finally, all of our PTA dancers throughout the district have been practicing all year long. with their recitals coming up on May 19th, and details for ticket distribution will soon follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And Tuckahoe School Foundation, Rob, did you have
Yeah,
something?
just a quick update there. Just to report back to the public, some of the grants that were recommended or requested last year were distributed this year. Just to mention a couple, there was sheet music for the music program. There was alternative seating for a couple of the classrooms down at Caudill. The TSF supported the mosaics from the art department that was put up down in the village. We're hatching chick kits for the science class. I don't kind of know what that is. There were also demonstrations that they funded, document cameras, as well as some equipment for the STEAM program that's upcoming. So just a reminder of what they've done in the past, and current grants requests are open for submission by the end of the month. So the school administrators, building administrators should be reaching out to the staff, requesting those documents and getting them submitted by the end of the month, beginning of May. And then lastly, the scholarships for graduating seniors, those applications are available in the guidance office, and those are they're due May 20th. That's it.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, if I'm following the agenda, it's recognition of the audience, but should I skip down to Russ? Does it matter? Follow the agenda? Okay, so now is the first recognition of the audience. This would be on agenda items. Also on the agenda, we do have the budget, we do have the capital project, so we will give another opportunity after those presentations as well, just so that we if there's something that came up in those presentations you want to comment on, that's not a problem. But otherwise, is there anyone who wants to be recognized now, or you want to wait until the budget? We'll wait? Okay. All right, so now Russ Davidson, our architect from KG&D, is going to give us an update on our capital project.
So a few weeks ago in this room, we opened bids on the middle school, high school portion of your bond project, which included improvements to this building and the replacement of the synthetic turf. Good news, 15% under budget on both counts. So this really put your budget sort of back in a good standing. And both low bidders have been checked out by our office and your construction manager, and they're good, and they seem to have the scope of the projects correctly estimated. So this is a really excellent news in a volatile bidding time. And I think that the award of those bids are on your meeting tonight. Mm-hmm. So where does this put you overall in the bond finances? Well, at bid time, it restores your complete construction contingency of $821,000. So that's actually higher than the original allowance of $810,000.
Well, Russ, I'm going to have to stop you, I'm sorry, because I understand the way you're presenting it, but the contingency is only at that full amount is because it's not including the field work.
I'm getting there.
Okay, all right, because I just don't want to put out
Yeah, I'm
okay,
getting there.
Go ahead.
But you remember, there have been some approved change orders already in the amount of $10,000 for additional tree removal. We do expect a few more change orders to happen. One will be some additional sidewalk replacement due to the routing of the electric service required by the utility. But it's good. You get some new sidewalk, which you can use. And then, of course, the largest one, which was included in the pre-bond work, is the alterations to Caudill Elementary School field, which was bid at $482,000, but the original budget for that work was $405,000. So that gives you pending change orders of $514,000, including the field. And if you took that off the construction contingency, that would still leave you about $300,000 of construction contingency. So, as you may remember when we were here last talking about the Caudill field, one of the strategies was, let's get the middle school, high school bid. Let's see how that happens. Let's let the Caudill construction progress a little and see how much contingency is needed. And then you can award the Caudill field within your budget. And I still think that that's a good strategy. because it looks like you'll have enough room to do that if you decide to go forward with the Caudill field as designed. Just as Carl mentioned, you're about to start construction on the second floor addition. You should know that the steel shop drawings have been progressing, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any claim for additional costs related to steel, which is typically one of the largest sources of change orders. So the Caudill project is tracking very well. And overall, your project's tracking pretty well. We couldn't have gotten better results on this latest set of bids. So you have a number of options in front of you. First of all, we would recommend that you award the field as soon as possible so that can get going. The middle school, high school work includes the security vestibule and replacement of exterior doors. They're all affordable within the budget. They're all things that were discussed as part of the pre-bond scope. Assuming that change orders continue to track pretty conservatively the way they are now, at a meeting later this summer, you could award the Caudill field and get it improved exactly as designed. There's also been some discussion, now that it looks like you're going to soon own the road, that you might want to do some other improvements to the road which may impact how you do the Caudill field. So you may want to set that money aside and incorporate it with some other improvements to the road area. Those are options that are all open to you and all consistent with setting aside the approximately $400,000 that you said to the public you were going to spend on the field. But the next step would be to get going with the middle school and high school work and the replacement of the synthetic turf.
So if I understand correctly, so the reason why you're sort of taking it out for temporarily is because it came in high on the bid, because everything else were sort of on schedule in terms of what was budgeted, correct?
Well, the addition came in a little higher than expected. That's really the biggest issue. The field is about 20% higher, so it was 482 as opposed to
405.
Yeah.
Right. And this most recent bid came in a little under as well, so that sort of offsets the higher bid as well.
And the other reason was, just as the project was going to bid, the district said, well, looks like we're going to get the road. And we said, well, that may impact how you want to do the field. So we just put it as an alternate, so you'd know what it cost. Not that it was going to be taken out, but then if you decided to not go forward or modify it, you knew what it would cost. And as you remember, when we awarded Caudill, we asked the contractor to hold that price on that field, which he has done in writing. So if everything goes well and you decide, you know what, we'll deal with the road a little later, we're going to do the field exactly as predicted, you can say in August, let's award that alternate, and you have the money. So it was just a cautious and prudent way of proceeding, never intended to take that out.
No, I think, I know that we as a board understand that, but I just think that in presenting it, that our contingency is $821,000. It's not, because we as a board still want to restore and improve the field. If we go back to the community at some point to say that we want to enhance it even further and let the community decide on that, I'm all for that. But I think it's still important to keep that money in with our original budget. And when we take it out of our original budget, then the numbers are reflected differently.
It's just an accounting method. Usually contingency is amount of money not committed yet. So that is correct. It's
No, I know, but
yet.
but we are committed. That's the difference, because we are committed to Caudill Field, because that's what we put out to the community, and that's maybe where there's a miss.
I'll reform it however you want.
I think there's discussion to be had based on the circumstances that have changed.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying, but I do think when we're going to talk about it more, we
Right.
have 6
Yeah.
months.
Right.
4 or 5
Michelle's
months to
point, I think his
decide.
valid point is that now we're calling the field a contingency when it never was a
Well,
contingency.
I think he referred to it as an alternate, not a
It's
contingency.
a pending change order. It's listed
Yes.
right here. It's footnoted. A contingency is the amount of money that you are not contractually obligated to spend. So right now, your contingency is 811 because
Because
you
we
have
haven't
not...
committed to their.
You have not signed a
Right.
change order to do the field. It's
Yeah.
listed here. So it's just an accounting, and the way we talk about money in construction. It doesn't mean it's ever deleted from the project.
Well, Russ, if you look at the numbers, the way they've been presented, the first budget, there's a contingency of $810,000, and the field work was accounted for. So it was accounted for in our original budget, and I'm more comfortable keeping it, and we can have a discussion. And I think maybe, the board just got a lot of information over the last couple of days, and we are all very committed to making sure that we're going to really check and scrutinize and make sure that we are sticking to our budget. So I think we need to just a little more time to go over the numbers that we've been presented and the information that we've been presented on the two bids that we have tonight, because there are additions in the high school work that I'm pretty sure we are all on board with in terms of the security vestibule in the high school. I think the whole community would be in favor of that as well. But I think we need to have a little more discussion and make sure that we are all in agreement with where we are committing the money to and what's left in contingency at this point. I'm not sure that we've had the opportunity to have that conversation yet. So and listen, I know this board, I could speak for this board, we'll meet anytime. So for the capital, we don't want to put it off a month. We can do it this week, we can do it next week, and the public is more than welcome to come and attend, but I do think that we need to have a little more conversation on the numbers.
Well, unlike the Caudill project, here you got bids that are 15% under budget. It's work that's supposed to take place this summer. I would recommend you award it immediately.
Okay, so you're saying if we don't do it tonight, there's a difference, like if we do it,
Well, it's
this
just
week?
the high school field and the vestibule work and the infrastructure.
yeah, but the vestibule work includes those other additions, the doors and...
Yes, it does.
Right.
If you decide not to do the doors, we have to look at a different low bidder as well. It changes who the low bidder is.
So what does the board want? You guys, okay. All right, so,
Well, I thought that the doors and the exit from the auditorium were always on the table. They were always
They were
considered.
they were simply bid as alternates.
Yeah, I'm-
but they're
I'm with
bid,
you.
they're bid out
I'm with you.
separately, right?
They were bid separately, so I don't know why at this point we removed them. They were always part of it.
I don't know.
And I don't know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
So I don't know
Right.
I don't actually have a concern moving forward with the turf and the infrastructure for the high school,
Yeah,
middle
I
school, which is
kinda
what
feel
we're
the same
asking for
way,
tonight.
Especially being that they came in on the budget. I think, I do share in Michelle's concern, though, about the optics of I know what you're saying, I understand the accounting of it.
We'll
But-
move it
but-
over if you
right.
like the way that looks better. That's fine.
But in terms of moving forward, though, Michelle.
No, I don't know it's
see an
about
issue.
looking. I think it's about being committed to the field work. And my concern is that if it's being considered an alternate or contingency, it doesn't have the same
Priority.
as the way we presented it. And that's my concern.
Well, it hasn't been awarded yet. I think that's really the whole.
No,
that's why
we
the
bid it out.
right.
No,
We
it's
bid
been
it.
bid,
Right.
and he's held his bid, but it hasn't been awarded yet.
I understand.
So-
We can't
Right,
award
and I
it
think
yet.
if we awarded it, but then we decide to modify it, so that's what I think you have to have the discussion on that. But I think we have time to make that decision.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I kind of agree, though, Michelle, because what we'd be voting on today is still within the scope of our original
I
plan.
agree. Mhm.
And it came in 15% under, so I don't know why we wouldn't just move forward on that, but I, again, I totally agree with you in terms of the priority of the Caudill Field. It's what we kind of sold it. So, yeah, so,
I mean,
I don't
you can award it later, or if you decide something to do more, don't spend the money and transfer that over to your next effort. But, absolutely,
I
it's
think-
part of the scope of the project.
I think what's,
I know,
I think
but
I
do you understand that the
I think the
contingency,
fear would
if we
be
do the,
Right.
that
the
if we
contingency
needed the
is
money,
300,000.
we would
right.
use it. But I think what we're saying is, we don't want that money moved.
Right.
Like, it has to remain available.
yeah, I mean, I think, the project was sold to the public, obviously, there's a lot more details to it that we were very much in the weeds on, but the big-ticket items were the extension, the vestibule, and the 2 fields. So I think we want to deliver
Right.
on those promises.
On the Caudill field, I think
Not to
there's a
say
lot
you're
of
saying we're
discussion.
not.
I always felt there was a lot of discussion that really needs to be had on that, because I think, unlike the turf, which you kind of do it, it's a fixed cost, 7, 8 years from now, you're going to have to replace it, 10 years from now. Caudill Field, because it was going to remain natural, I think, in my mind, I always felt like we needed to revisit it, because it's used all day long and all weekend long, and it takes a lot of wear and tear, and I think we have to look at what the actual, I don't think I've seen it, the actual scope of what was going to be done to that field.
Right.
And whether or not $500,000 to returf it, reseed it, put dirt down for $500,000, when in a year, if we don't put irrigation and other things, we're going to have to do it again.
Yeah.
So I always felt like we had to revisit that, but I also always thought that
But I think
that
you're-
was going to be after the second story went
Right,
up
my
because of
concern is that,
all the work.
I just want to make sure the money is there.
Yeah,
And
it should be
if
set
we
aside
add
and
to
not
it,
be
we add
used.
to it. If we don't add to it, we don't add to it. If we do it as originally presented. But my concern is, once we award these 2 bids, if you look at the numbers, it's,
There's $800,000 of unawarded money.
Right.
Correct.
and then you take out the field.
Then it'd be $300,000.
Right.
Right.
Right. A little more.
Yeah, I'm with you, but how do you get around that anyway? If we would award it, we'd still have $300,000 worth of available monies if there were change orders or upgrades or anything else anyway. So, but I think this actually gives us some flexibility to not committing to have the field work done, although we want it done. But if a big change order came in for a few $100,000 and we needed it, we have it. And then the Caudill field, maybe you do minor adjustments to make it safe.
Well, the other thing I point out is the Caudill field came in over budget, 20% over.
That's,
So maybe it should be
Components.
rebid as a separate item. And that's another option, because, and I also believe, as from a design perspective, the fact that you own the road, maybe that field should be something different, because it's going to be connected to the school in a safer way, and maybe there's a transition area that's more playground than road, and that bears some thought. But we fully understand the money needs to be set aside.
Okay, can we put it back out to bid on its own?
We could, sure. But I think you just want to make sure that it's really what you want to do now that you own the road.
Well, we talked about seeing some, drawings or some.
And we have those ready to talk
Oh,
with
you
you
do?
at any moment.
Okay. So, like I'm saying, I think we need a meeting
Absolutely.
to have more discussion and talk about those options.
Happy to do it with you.
Okay, great, thank you.
I have a question, just so if I recall correctly, back for a couple of meetings when you presented, there was some concern about the steel and being ordered on time, but it sounds like tonight, that's not a concern, everything's in
All
order.
reports are it's on track.
Okay. But you
And
you had mentioned that, correct? There was a possibility?
It's absolutely the most critical element. But the roof has been opened up. You can see fencing set up. We're through the second round of steel shop drawings. There's no talk of additional cost, and it's all moving pretty well. And, your construction manager, Calgy, and our staff are dealing with them every day.
And that's going to be installed from the back of the school, correct? Likely cranes and what have you, I think you mentioned. Because of the
Mostly, I'm not
wires and-
up on the exact erection procedure, but I can get more information to you.
Yeah, I think that might be important to the community, just to be aware whether we're going to be working from the back or from the front, from the street.
Well, you can get Dominic to come to a meeting, tell you all that. I can tell you what it's going to look like when it's done.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Russ, and that's good news on those bids, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Lee, you want to move on to the budget presentation?
Sure. I think I'll just steal your seedlings, so that in the way.
Okay, so this is the final presentation of the superintendent's proposed budget for 2019-20. If the board adopts the budget tonight, which is on the agenda, then it will become the Board of Education's budget. So I'll go through the presentation one more time. We start off the budget discussion with the New York State tax cap calculation, which applies to all school districts in the state. It limits the growth in property taxes that can be levied by school districts, and you may be aware that the governor did sign into law that this will become a permanent tax cap at 2%. It's no longer to be renewed periodically. The proposed tax levy that we can increase our budget is limited by New York State, which provides us with several growth factors that we use in a formula to calculate what is our allowable growth in the tax levy. So there are two factors. We have the CPI, or 2%, whichever is lower. And for 2019, CPI, I believe, was 2.44%. So the allowable growth factor then is 2%, the lower of the two. The second factor in how we look at the tax levy increase is called our tax base growth factor. It's provided to us by the Office of the State Controller, and it is a calculation that they do to look at the brick and mortar growth in the district. It varies from year to year, and there's a somewhat of a lag behind building in the district and then when we do see an increase in the growth factor. And for next year, our growth factor is 1.0054. So if we multiply that 2% times the 1.0054, the two factors that we have to increase our tax levy, we come up with a 2.55% possible growth. And then we have to take out various things that the state provides us with a large formula. We take out debt payments, pilots, which are payments in lieu of taxes by certain properties, and capital outlays. And then after we take care of all that, we come up with a final allowable tax levy growth, which we provide to the state, of 2.22% as our maximum. Here's the full calculation that is sent to the state. When we look at the 2.22% over last year, that provides the district with a possible maximum allowable tax levy increase of $620,002. We have other sources of revenue, but that's the tax levy is our major source of revenue. In terms of the Property Tax Relief Credit Program, which began in 2016 and is now fully phased in, the program reduces the property tax burden for qualifying homeowners. So every homeowner, if eligible for the credit, automatically receives a check from New York State in the fall. And to be eligible, you have to live in a school district that is complying with the New York State property tax cap. You must be receiving either basic or enhanced star exemption. You must have an income of $275,000 or less. And you must have paid property taxes in the prior year. And the budget as proposed is compliant with this tax cap. So this is the budget's 2019-20 initial expenditure budget. I have not changed anything except one line based on the conversation last Board of Education meeting. I put in the salary in my 2-year contract to reflect the second year of the contract, and it was offset by a reduction in the medical and health benefits, which are a contingency for new employees, which I felt was conservative, and I could make that difference, which is $9,450, but the total bottom line numbers are the same. So the main budget drivers in the budget are some new staff members that have been proposed, the guidance counselor, social worker, at $120,000, a STEAM teacher, plus startup materials for the program at Caudill. There are 3.2 teaching positions proposed for the high school for a total of a 0.6 of a full-time position at the high school. There's professional development increases to reflect the strategic plan. There's a school resource officer, or SRO, that will be provided with an agreement with the town of Eastchester that's proposed. We're continuing to maintain traffic control, which was not in last year's budget, so that's why we're showing it there. Pension contributions has an increase due to increases in pension costs and more employees, as well as health benefits, more employees, and a large increase from our Swiss chip provider. We also are proposing a transfer to capital, which is a reduction over last year because we are doing so much capital work in the district this summer and this year, but we still wanted to set aside some money for capital improvements to the district that are not included in the capital project. On the revenue side of the budget, we are looking at increasing our allowable tax levy by 2.20%, or just under $615,000. We are also, although still conservative, looking to increase the revenue side for tuition because we have seen growth in tuition and we have taken a look at what students are expected to return next year that do pay tuition. So we've increased the revenue side on that line by $300,000. And the state aid, the final number that we received after the budget was passed by the New York State Legislature was an increase of $106,106. So if we look at the revenue side of the budget, you can see that we are looking at those increases that I just discussed, as well as some other smaller increases in revenue from various other sources. In order to balance the budget so that revenues must equal expenses, which is required by education law, we are expected to appropriate $1,709,000 in appropriated fund balance and $100,000 in the ERS reserve to pay ERS pension fees. So this is where we are. The baseline expenditure budget is $35,482,700. The baseline revenue budget is $33,673,464. That budget gap of $1,809,236 is what we are proposing to use fund balance and ERS reserve to close. The other option is to reduce expenses, but the board so far has seen fit to leave that line in the budget. So the net impact to using those appropriated reserves would be to balance the budget. This is just a history of the appropriations and the fund balance of the fund balance. That was the amounts needed to close the proposed budgets each year. So as you can see, we were at a low in 2016-17. We've added program and staffing and other things which have increased the needed appropriations. Although, as the budget is a conservative budget, we will see how much we actually need to appropriate as we go through the year. The net budget impact is a balanced budget, and the rationale to use appropriations is to avoid cuts to balance the budget. This is a history of the fund balance, and the yellow areas are the estimates for the remainder of the year. Because we had a lot of unexpected expenses, emergency expenses this year for our heating plant, we are not expected to run a surplus this year, and we will see a decline in the fund balance. And next year, that shows where we expect to end the year as well. If our budget does come in as planned, and we would still see another small decline in the fund balance by using the appropriated fund balance. Oops. What we still don't know for next year, we are subject to many tax certiorari petitions and judgments. They vary from year to year. They come in at various times during the year, and new ones come in all the time. So we still don't know yet what judgments and settlements will be in next year's budget. We also don't know yet the exact staffing levels that we'll need to meet all the mandates that we're subject to by New York State education law and special education mandates as well. This slide shows you the history of our tax levy and our budget. As you can see, the 5-year average of our tax levy is 1.61%. It's been consistently under the New York State tax cap maximum allowance, as well as our budget as well. Our 5-year average is 2.32% increase. Here it looks at it graphically. Alongside the line on top is our enrollment growth. So you can see that in years of strong enrollment growth, we were not raising the budget that quickly, and now at this point in time, we are adding more things to program and staff, and that reflects probably some of the increases in the enrollment. So the final important dates to remember: today the Board of Education will vote to adopt the budget. On May 13th at the next meeting, on a Monday, will be the public hearing on the adopted budget, and then on Tuesday, May 21st, is the budget vote and the trustee election. The trustee vote is from, and a budget election, trustee election and budget vote is from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Tuesday, May 21st. And please come out to vote. There are 2 election districts, and those can be found on the website as well as over here on the budget vote information. Okay.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Anybody, any questions from the board on the presentation? Lee, thank you again for going over that. We have seen it, but some people here tonight are seeing it for the first time, and others might be tuning in at home and seeing it for the first time. So thank you for going through that again. Does anyone on the board have anything they want to add or ask or discuss?
Just one small comment, because we had a lot of discussion about the last meeting, about the $27,000 for the traffic enforcement. We decided to leave it in as a placeholder, but I think a lot of us are concerned about whether that's good money well spent based on how it's been executed. So I think we decided to leave it in there as a placeholder, but if we don't get the performance or the results that we're looking for, we may reallocate that money correctly to something traffic related, but so it may not be used exactly for traffic enforcement. We're just going to leave it in there as a placeholder, right? Correct? So other than that.
Okay, and again, also at the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion, and you'll see that it was not included in the budget that was just presented, and those are the changes in the busing and in the addition, in adding back the BOCES for the high school students. Occupational ed, yes. I will say that, and I don't want to speak, the board, we can all speak for ourselves, but the board, we're really in support of both. But we feel that we do need more information and more time spent and getting us more information, and it's very, very difficult decisions to make because, of course, we want everything for all of the students. So we have asked, and we do want more information. I think we need more time, and if something maybe next year, or if more revenue opens up over the summer, it is something that we can relook at. But for right now, and for the purpose of this budget that's being presented tonight, those options are not in there. Is there anything else?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think after a lot of discussion and a lot of dialogue and public feedback, I think we looked at the fact that we're going to be dipping into the reserve for $1.8 million. It would be hard to add those, although we are fully in support of that. And if something does change between now and the beginning of the year, we certainly could consider it. It's difficult. It was really difficult. I think, we're doing a lot we're adding 6.5 teachers, we're adding the STEM program, we're adding the SRO, we're adding the guidance counselor, we're adding additional professional development, we're adding additional resources for the special education program. So it was difficult to come to this decision, and we did speak about it a lot. And although collectively we're all in favor of it and we'd like to do it for our students, we just felt it wasn't responsible at this particular time.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Anything to add? Okay, any questions from the audience? Anyone?
Hi, I'm Therese Gardier, 114 Parkview Drive. I actually have a few questions, so as I've been sitting here, I've been taking some notes. My first question is this the microphone or is this the microphone? Both. They're both, okay. All right. I want to make sure. I know there aren't a lot of people here tonight, but there are a lot of concerns. So I feel that I'm not only speaking for myself. I have children in 2nd, 4th, and 6th grade, and I've been in communication with a lot of those parents. I've sent emails to the board and the administration. My most recent one, I did not get a response, so I'd like one. Just to speak to the construction, listening, I guess I didn't really realize that the construction was I knew it was going to be going on during the school year, but in driving past and now seeing kind of the trailers coming up and hearing about the steel, it's obviously going to be an air quality issue as the kids are in school in the fall. And they're starting to erect these beams and everything else. So I wanted to know if part of the construction is to put air conditioning and some type of ventilation in the rooms that are, especially the ones that are directly below where the construction is going to be going on in the 4th and 5th grade classrooms. My daughter in particular, I know, is asthmatic. There are a lot of kids with various health, issues and allergies, and how we're planning to address that proactively.
That would have been a great question for the architect and/or our project manager, which I think I heard the board say that we'd like to have Dominic Calgi, the project manager, attend a future meeting. But I will do my best, and Lee, please help me. My understanding is that there's very strict laws. We've heard this from the project manager and the architect in projects such as this. And air quality controls will be maintained, and all the laws will be abided by throughout the project. So, as you may know, the heavy construction, the steel erection will happen over the summer. The goal is by the time students return in the fall that it will be completely enclosed, watertight, and the construction will happen on the interior. So things such as plumbing and heating and electrical work,
Right.
cabinetry build-out. Of course, dust is always a concern, but the idea would be to have that second story above the classrooms completely sealed, and the rooms will be thoroughly cleaned before students return in the fall, and then maintaining throughout the rest of the project air quality controls.
Okay. I guess specifically, I'd like to know what the air quality control is going to be. And I don't think that hanging our hats on the construction being done on schedule is necessarily the best plan. Just in renovating a kitchen, they tell you it's going to be 3 months, it ends up being 6. And no matter how much they tape and seal and whatever, there's dust everywhere in your house, So I think that we need to kind of think about that. And, listen, it sounds like things are moving along on schedule, and that's great, but I don't want us to have, a hot September and stifling rooms, and the kids not being able to pay attention because the conditions aren't great.
And I also, if I could just say, I remember that we talked about this quite a bit in the beginning part of the process.
Those are good questions for the construction.
We actually spoke about it quite a bit and raised those same concerns. I don't remember, Carl said, exactly how they addressed them. Now it's been a couple months ago, but I do remember being assured that quality control, air quality, and ventilation is going to be a big part of the project.
Good.
It's a good time to kind of get them back and talk about it again.
Yeah, sometimes I think
But
we
we
just
did
have
raise
to
it,
circle back
Yep.
and kind of revisit these things.
Yep.
Absolutely.
As far, sorry.
Ms. Gardia, Lee Lou has a little
I
more
can just
experience.
respond to you about the
Oh,
air
sure.
conditioning. There are 5 rooms currently at Caudill that don't have air conditioning, and they are the rooms that are underneath the new addition. And the reason we haven't put it in yet is because we wanted to see if there might be a possibility if we could tie in to the air conditioning system that will be on the new addition.
Okay.
We found out since that we cannot tie into that system, so we have already contracted and plan to put in the remaining 5 air conditioners within the next month or so.
Great.
So the entire school should be air conditioned and have no problems in terms of that.
So then they won't have to open windows.
They won't have to open the
Great.
windows, nothing.
Okay, great. So with the K through 12 guidance counselor that's being hired, what is exactly the purpose of that person? What is their role going to be and their day-to-day look like?
There are several ideas behind this recommendation. One is that there is a new requirement for developmental guidance instruction in grades K through 5. So we envision this position being approximately 0.5 elementary, 0.5 middle high school. At the elementary, I think one of the primary responsibilities will be actually pushing into classrooms and providing guidance instruction to all of our students, all 600 elementary school students. That we currently do not do that. That'll encompass a number of different areas: social skills, appropriate behaviors with students. Just a variety of areas in helping them manage stress, manage the responsibilities of their lives in school. At the secondary level, the administrative team, as well as our professional staff, has often raised the concern that they would like someone who has the ability to support students in the home. do more home visits, also helping families access a lot of the resources that are available, particularly at the county level. So someone who is a liaison, who can connect family with resources, who could go into the homes and do visits and provide support not only for the students, but for some of our families. So those are the two basic ideas, but the idea is the person would be a certified guidance counselor. In addition, though, we would prefer someone with guidance and social work certifications, or someone at least who would be willing to pursue the social worker, sir.
Okay. So, I mean, so then if they're half in the elementary, half in the middle high school, their kind of impact spanning themselves that thin is not going to be huge. You know, as far as if you're saying, say, out of a 4-week month, 2 weeks are in Caudill, there's 600 kids at Caudill, and I don't know how many classes, and you're dividing that by, you're dividing that multiple times. So they're really not there for any kind of real educational support, instructional support.
They'll be providing guidance instruction in the classrooms.
Guidance instruction like for social skills, or guidance instruction
Yes.
like academic?
Yes. No, guidance instruction for more social skills and developmentally.
There's actual
Right.
statements for guidance, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the New York State has published, there, I can get you that information, like more specifics of, but New York State is requiring this. It doesn't require you to have, I want to be clear, it doesn't require a guidance counselor in the elementary school. But you can see throughout Westchester, most districts have decided to meet the mandate by implementing an elementary guidance counselor, if not full-time, part-time.
Okay. So I guess my follow-up to that is my main concern, which is the class size of the rising 5th grade. Is it still the plan to decrease the sections?
It is. The budget that was presented tonight has...
I didn't see that part of the budget presentation.
No, but this is the final step before the board adopts the budget. So as I think our board members indicated, we've had about 4 public discussions on it. And right now, the next year's projected 5th grade, the grade level, will have 94 students in 4 general education classes. That would be approximately 24 students per section. So that is the plan, and that's what's reflected in the budget. However, we're going to track that closely. I do agree with you. I think we are on the cusp of having what some may consider high class sizes.
No, we're there. We're not on the cusp. We are actually there.
Okay.
Especially given this particular class and its history and the class dynamic. We are not on the cusp. There are not a few people who are concerned. There are actually many people who are concerned. Unfortunately, there are a few people here from the 4th grade, current 4th grade class, but the email that I sent out to the board, to yourself, to Mr. Marash, to Mr. Kilgallen, I sent to the entire 4th grade. I got an overwhelming majority response of, we support you, thank you. I honestly, to speak to like Rob's point always, I think it is frustrating that people don't come and voice their opinion. And in the emails back and forth, I made it clear to everybody that I was speaking for this entire grade, because I think that they have really not been given the best start at Caudill, and that's been a continued theme. I'm incredibly disappointed that I met with Mr. Marash and Mr. Kilgallen. I asked for research to support this administration's decision in increasing the class size, because what we're also not talking about is the plan is to increase the class size and to departmentalize this grade at the same time. So you're now going to completely change the teacher's job description in ways, right? So even though they're not going to be, they're going to teach one subject, but they're now going to assess 94 children in that one subject, or maybe 98 children. They're going to have to deal with these kids trying to acclimate to shifting classrooms. And all the research I've done, which has been extensive, has not supported doing both things the same time and resulting in academic success. To the contrary, it says the negative, that this is not a good decision. just from basic math and common sense, it's not a good decision. And at the last board meeting, unfortunately, I could not be here, but I was watching from home, you had said that this is not a money issue, and it's a space issue. But if it was something that we were dedicated to as a school district, then we'd make the space. We'd take the library. We would do what we had to do. You put art on a cart. We could put library on a cart. You could put music on a cart. You know, I feel very, very strongly about this, and I'm incredibly disappointed at the way this is being handled.
Okay, and point well taken. We did consider the impact and the...
How did you consider it?
Well, several different ways. So the entire admin team met on this, meaning the building administrators as well as the central office admin team. We looked at the needs of the class. There are a number of different things that you consider. We looked at other classes. We looked at the building as a whole. And for example, one consideration was currently in first grade, there are 94 students in Gen Ed in 4 sections. There are approximately 24 students per class now, and it varies. One has 25, one has 24 across the grade level in grade 1. Our thought process was that if there was a grade that should go into 5 sections, we should lean towards the younger students, because the research does support small class sizes. I do not dispute that. But there are certain realities of running a public school, and I would love to see every class, run in the high teens. That is ideal, and I was a 5th grade teacher. I worked in a departmental model. I had classes of 23, and I had classes of 16 one year. The class of 16 was a dream come true, and I will not argue that is not a better scenario. However, we also considered the negative impact of basically converting the current library into a classroom. As it is, our students have art on a cart. You mentioned that. We don't see music on a cart as an option. A lot of what happens in music is movement. Our music teacher, Ms. Kim, uses her piano nearly every day. The music room is undersized, and once we have
I'm
space,
really not in favor of the music going on a cart either.
So if anything, it would be the library, but we also considered that 600 students access that library every week for at least one period.
And why can't they be accessing library in their classroom with a cart, with books that are developmentally appropriate in their classroom? Because it's my understanding that the media area in Caudill is not being used because there is no smart board, the room is not big enough to hold some of the classes, and that a lot of the technology instruction is happening within the classroom on Chromebooks and through iPads.
My understanding is the library is utilized. I would agree with you, work has to be done in the library.
That's wrong.
The library is a special class. I agree with you that we're not happy with the library the way it is. After the project is complete, as we did here with this library, we do plan to do some upgrades in that library. So we're not happy with the space, but you may recall too, the original capital project plan called for 2 library complete renovations. When that plan was defeated, then we decided to just do some minor renovations. We did that here, and we plan to do that in Caudill. So it is not the ideal space. I'm not making that argument, but it is a location where classes do go regularly every week, and that was just one of the considerations, that you would lose a library space. I'm not saying that was the only consideration. We also looked at 24. There is, a very strong possibility that in the middle school, the students will be in 4 sections. Knowing the middle school schedule, that is it's very difficult to go into 5 sections. So I can tell you, currently in the middle school, every grade level is in 4 sections. I know they're still a year away from middle school, and all of these things. There was a very thoughtful discussion, Ms. Gardier, and like I said, I think if we had the space, we may have considered it even more. I'm not saying what you're proposing is bad. Currently, we're in 5 sections. I believe we're running approximately 19 per section.
Right, and when you push in the special ed kids, those classrooms are now over 20. Right, when my daughter is in a classroom in the 4th grade, and when the kids come in and get pushed into that classroom, they're at 21 or 22. So now that class that's going to be 24, when they get their push in, they're going to go up. And this is the same group that came into Caudill with class sizes of 29 in kindergarten. So where I can appreciate what you're saying about keeping the K through 2 class sizes small, that was not a priority for our children. The leadership decisions at the time were very poorly executed. There was no proactive leadership decision making. And most importantly, and I think what I find most frustrating, is that the community voice was not heard, because I was a part of that conversation as well. Sending letters over the summer, asking for meetings. There is no response. And then mid-October, we get an email from the then principal to say, okay, fine, we'll make you 5 sections. Who volunteers their kid to come out of their kindergarten class? Who's taking their 5-year-old out of the kindergarten classroom that they've just adjusted to week 6 of school? Nobody. And that's, I think that was part of the plan, or at least that's how the public perceived it, was that they waited until nobody would actually agree to do it, and then they hired a teacher's aide somewhere halfway through the school year. It's unacceptable. And it's not fair to these kids. They started out behind the 8 ball, and now they're going to leave behind the 8 ball. Because when those numbers tip again, well, are we going to really change the library? And it's going to be the same thing again. And as a parent of my daughter in that classroom, but also to speak for all of those kids, it's not fair. You're not doing the best for these kids.
Okay, and I don't clearly recall the numbers being at 29 per class.
They were. I was the class mother. It was horrifying being in that classroom. Horrifying.
And I agree with you. That's unacceptable for kindergarten. So you're not getting an argument there. That's far too high. But
we sat in your office. You said the same thing to me, and you went back and checked the board. That was the number. This is very, and I put a lot of time into researching this myself, into talking to experts in the field, into composing a email which I thought warranted a response, which I did not get.
But I did offer to speak with you, Mrs. Gardier.
Mr. Albano, you offered to speak to me. I spoke to Mr. Marash and Mr. Kilgallen. I then sent the second email, which is what I'm referencing right now, and I did not hear a word from anybody.
Yeah.
I CC'd the entire board. I included the entire 4th grade class. The only people I heard from were the 4th grade parents saying, thank you for doing this. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for your vigilance. I can't go to the board meeting. Please speak for all of us. And that's my 33 email thread in my email, not from anybody else. And the fact that we're still going to push through with this, to me, is very disturbing and very upsetting.
Okay.
I'm done.
Hi, Lori Gerald, 15 Wallace Street. I second everything that she said, as our daughters are both in 4th grade. I can remember when I came to this district 7 years ago, and my son was in a 4th grade that was over, just way too many kids in there, just crowded like crazy. It really served to be a detriment for his education. And my husband and I ended up having to come out of pocket big time to supplement the gaps of instruction for him. My concern would be those families who are not in a position financially to provide those supports. Not that I'm big money bags, but that's what we did. That's what we did for our child. Unfortunately, there are many other people who cannot do that. You're currently in a situation where your teachers primarily do whole group instruction for everything. Right there, There's really no differentiation at all. And so therefore, those gaps get bigger and bigger, particularly when you're adding more kids into a situation like that. Your curriculum and instruction does not support creative intelligence, critical analysis on really anything, because it's all whole group. The kids are just sitting there and being taught to most of the time. And when I come into the classroom, I've actually seen it myself. And I really think that, you know, and again, I've been here for 7 years. I've been coming to board meetings for 7 years. And I've said the same thing. There does not seem to be a real focus on the elementary curriculum and instruction that there should be. It seems to be all up here. And what I've said to you, you guys can look back at the tapes, you can't have a solid K-12 program without your K-5 program being solid, because that is where your foundation is. And as those kids progress through the grades, those learning gaps get bigger and bigger and bigger. That impacts all of your testing down the road when they're in, you know, high school, and so on and so forth. And so it's unfortunate that we continue to be on this path where we are not considerate of our littlest children, where their brains are like sponges. And those are the most optimal time for learning and instruction for young people. It really, really is. And so when you pack up classrooms, you don't consider involving the parents in those discussions. And quite honestly, I didn't even know that was going on. Typically, I'm involved, but in the district and being at board meetings and involved, but I had a crazy year, so I haven't been able to get here like I want to. So when I learned of this, I was infuriated, because here we go again, and I know how it impacted my son. And I just think that, you know, when you don't have a real focus on your elementary school program, you don't have administrators who really understand elementary. Many of the administrators here love you all, but your experience at the elementary level is very minimal. You really don't have the expertise to go into a classroom and, look at what is going on in the classroom critically. I could walk into any of these classrooms. I love my kids' teachers, but the fact of the matter is I did not think that they're getting optimal instruction. And so when you add in, you know, an overcrowded situation, potentially overcrowded, because the other thing is you don't know who's moving into the district next year. You don't. I see homes being, you know, up for sale crazy around here. And so you could get more children, and then how does that impact? And so I really think that we need to do a better job of focusing in on our littlest kids. And it's not just first grade. Having taught first grade for many years, that is a critical grade. Kindergarten is a critical grade. K through 5 is your critical piece to this district. It really is. And we need to stop, and we need to get somebody who can advocate as an administrator for your K-5 program. They can go in and look critically at the quality of instruction that's going on, that creative intelligence is being, infused, because we know that the curriculum and instruction that we have going on now is really not preparing our children for the 21st century. We're not factory workers anymore. They're going to have to be innovative. They're going to have to be creative. And the current setup that we have now is not preparing them for that. That's all I have to say. And I really implore that you reconsider going down the 4 sections. We don't need another Gerald in a situation like this. I'm tired of paying.
Thank you, Ms. Gerald. Anybody else? Antoinette?
I want to thank you for correcting the budget with your raise. That was good. But what I'm hearing now is about the BOCES, and it seems that every year that gets put on a back burner. And you've just spent, I forgot how much money, somewhere around 25 grand to come with a new plan, and part of that plan was to provide an education to all students. And you're not. You're not. There are children for whom college is not an option, academically, emotionally, whatever. And to not even include 2 spots is shameful.
Anybody else? Okay. All right, I want to just say, I do appreciate the comments, and I will say this, that, as I said earlier, it's not something that we don't want to do or we don't support, and if the revenue comes, if we can do it in a way that we feel best supports all students, then I believe we are all in favor of it. To do it in a way that wouldn't be doing that, or wouldn't be a process that enables that, then that's not something that we're going to be able to consider at this time. But again, nothing, even though we're adopting this budget tonight, there has never been anything that's come before the board that's been, if the need is there and has been presented to us, we can go into our funds to do it, and we have done it in the past, and we will do it. So if it has to be relooked at, and if the enrollment changes, factors can change, things can change, revenue can change, then we can readdress these things.
And I will add to that, you're correct, Michelle. Tonight, there's an example, we're increasing an E&L teacher because the need is there. You've always supported any increases that the administration has requested when needs arise. The problem with class size, though, is it's a projection from this point in time. And there is a point in time where the window of opportunity to create a fifth section closes, and we're approaching that very soon. For example, it's not something we could do in August. We'd have to make plans to convert the library, we'd have to hire a teacher, we'd have to order supplies and furniture, and that is something that, you know, if we decided to go in that direction, it would have to happen, in my estimate, within the next maybe 4 to 6 weeks. If we get into June and July, I have to be, you know, honest with the parents who are here advocating for a fifth section, and I respect that, but there is like a point of no return. What I will say is we will track those numbers closely if there is some enrollment, and but if 6 fifth graders moved in on August 15th, there would be no possibility of opening a fifth section. It just could not be done, practically speaking. So I want to be honest with you about that. I don't want to promise something that can't be delivered. But I could tell you if 5 fifth graders moved in next week, I think that is something that we would need to consider.
Five fifth graders are not going to move in next week. That's number one. Number two, I think what we're asking is for the leadership of this school, and specifically in regards to this grade, to be proactive and not reactive, okay? That is what we are asking for. Mm-hmm. We are also asking for research that supports increasing class size and departmentalizing a group of children at the same exact time, and how that projects into their long-term academic success in middle school and high school. Because everything I've read says smaller class size in not just K through 2, but K through 5 leads to success in middle school and high school. Where is the research?
Okay, good. Well, you've sent me a number of research studies, and there are more.
So where is it? I sent you that 2 weeks ago. I asked Mr. Marash when I met with him. He told me he felt strongly that this was going to be a success. I feel strongly that it's not. I'm not here to talk about feelings. I want to see how is this an informed decision? This is impacting my child. My daughter does not get to do 5th grade again. Next year is her one shot that she's going to be the guinea pig of all of this happening, and yet again will be done a disservice by this district. And to echo what Lori said before, I too spent a lot of money tutoring my daughter for years to make up for what she did not get, sitting in large class sizes and not being identified properly, despite me asking year after year for her to be identified. Luckily, I work and I'm in a position where I felt that was a priority, and that's what I did, and I made those choices. What concerns me is how we're always talking about 18%, I believe, of the students here qualify for school lunch. Is that the number? Am I wrong? Am I close?
Approximately.
I don't think that those parents can pay $800 a month to tutor their children. I'm better at bargaining than you. You know, and I think that this is, I don't accept this as an answer. I don't think that my concerns, or our concerns, have been addressed properly, and that this has been given real thought as far as these children and how it's going to impact this group of children. And knowing this group of children socially, knowing them from a behavioral standpoint, this is the same group of children that last year the school went on lockdown for real because one of them climbed out of a window and climbed back in, and they thought that somebody was entering the school. This is the same group of children. And maybe he's not classified in the 13 or 12% of IEP kids.
We can't publicly discuss,
No, but I
discuss a particular child. Ms.
I'm not
Garcia.
giving any names. I don't know who the child was, but this is the same group of children that we're now departmentalizing and increasing their class size. So I want to know how that makes sense. To me, that question has not been answered yet.
And with the departmentalizing or making into it a department situation, what was the reason behind that, and why all of a sudden? Is it to justify having the 4 sections? Is that what it is?
I can say this.
Like.
No.
Okay.
They're unrelated.
Okay.
The elementary principal, John Morash, did work with faculty as well as the PPLT committee. He did come from a district where there was a departmental model. It is not uncommon to have it in 5th grade. The idea behind it is, and it's a partial departmental model. In middle school, as you know, it's every period moving, so it's the idea is it's a transition year.
Right.
So it's partially departmentalized. It's something that came up from the building through PPLT, through the building administration as a recommendation. It was not thought of, well, let's do this because we're increasing the class size. They were separate discussions.
So my oldest daughter, Michael, we were in Georgia at the time, and she was a part of a 5th grade departmentalized situation that was run very well. But that was something that had been established over a period of time. They had a much more rigorous situation in the school in which she attended. So, and then what I also taught as a elementary school teacher, where the district did departmentalize 5th grade, but we did it in a way that was sensitive. It was not something that was thought about and then quickly implemented. It was something that was strategically done over a period of time so that it could be done seamlessly, thoughtfully, critically, and very, very carefully. And so I get it. I do get it. I'm not necessarily opposed to it. It's like many things in the district. It's about how you go about doing the things that you do. And when you don't involve parents, because until I got Teresa's, I really didn't know that, and I'm pretty much up on a lot of things in the district. I supported the initial budget that you put out, went out, talked to people about it. I was one of the very few people who, before they had to put it up again, I think I was one of 2 parents sitting in the auditorium at the high school with you and what's his name, Russ, that just left here. So I'm supportive of the things that I think that the district is doing. I also felt that you did do a good job of communicating, the plans and the budget. I just did, because I got every email. I was paying attention. I came out to those things. I supported the district in their efforts for the improvements that are really, really needed. This is one that I strongly, strongly oppose, only because I saw the fallout from that some years ago when my son was in 4th grade when he came here. And I saw the impact that it had on his growth as a 4th and in 5th grade, because it continued into 5th grade. And we had to support that through the ears and out again. And I just think that the district has to do a way better job. And when parents say that, they strongly oppose something, that really should be considered. It really should. It shouldn't be this sort of Gestapo thing. That's what it feels like. It feels like this Gestapo thing, oh, well, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to implement this departmental thing. And there wasn't really thought. It was kind of like when we got the Chromebooks, right? The Chromebooks were sort of thrown in there. Nobody had real training on how to use the Chromebooks, so that they worked optimally. We sort of figured it out as we've gone along. And this is not something this isn't a Chromebook. This is about instruction. This is about learning. This is about developing. And you want to talk about social emotional and bringing in the guidance counselor. What happens with kids who fall through the cracks, right, and who don't have families who can support them with the extras, to help them with those gaps, is that their social emotional aspect of them of the whole child is also impacted. Because what happens is when those learning gaps happen, to overcompensate for the fact that they don't understand, they don't get it, then that's when your behavior starts. That's when the kids start withdrawing, and then that's when all of those social emotional pieces come into play. So you can't let close the barn door after you've let the cow and the horses and every other animal out. You got to be proactive, and I hope that this district will reconsider this as an option. It really should not be. I'm sorry, Carl. It really, really shouldn't. And Michelle, come on, it should not.
Thank you, Lori. I do want to just say, Lori, that, and I do know that it is very hard to keep on top of everything, and I know for me, for years, the budget interests me, and it's something that I've always been very interested in. In our first presentations, when we've been started, and when did we first present the budget?
Early March, I believe.
Early March, and we did go over the class sizes, and we did put out into the community at that time that we were making this change, going down to from 5 sections to 4 sections. So it didn't just come about, it has been presented numerous times.
But it's a month.
No, but I think what you're talking about more is having conversations with the parents on a more intimate, one-on-one, and where they understand, so that those that are affected by it hear the information that way, not in this type of form.
We have, yes, it's been presented, and we know that the class size, this, for whatever reason, we're holding firm for whatever the reason is. Because we're asking specifically for the logic behind doing it, and we're not getting an answer to that question. And then just to piggyback on that, as far as going into this departmentalization, which again, I'm not opposed to either. When I was in 5th grade in this school, I was departmentalized. It was actually fine, and I think in ways it prepares you for middle school. But again, if you do it right, if it's thought out, if it's executed, and how are we training the teachers now who have, to my knowledge, the current teachers have not taught in a departmentalized fashion? What is the professional development that's going to be done to support them and to guide them and train them so that you can have some success? And again, for the 4th, 5th, 20th time, where is the research that supports increasing class size and departmentalizing the same year while a building is undergoing major construction, resulting in academic success long term? I want to see that research. I think we all do.
Okay. All right, thank you, Therese. Thank you, Lori, for your comments. And I just want to say, they do not go on deaf ears. We hear you. You have been heard. And we will also ask for that information. And again, while we don't see it in this budget, it does not mean that it can't be changed. We have in the past, as Carl said tonight, we are adding a new teacher at this time. So we're going to follow it closely. We're going to ask for that same information, and we're going to follow it through.
If I may. First off, I thank you for coming out. I mean, I say this over and over and over again, but it's good debate. But we need to have this more frequently, more often. And as Michelle said, all of us are here as volunteers. So we want to do what's absolutely best for our children, our community, and we need the feedback. So I hear you loud and clear. I think if everyone takes a step back and think about where the district was 12 years ago, we have made a lot of strides in the positive direction. That doesn't mean where we are today is good enough. I mean, 3 years ago, I sat up here saying I wanted a $30 million bond because I want to do even more for our children, right? So, believe me, we want to do as much as we possibly can, but we are, you know, we're handcuffed in some ways, financially and by space. We wanted to buy a property. The community didn't come out and support it, so we could create another building and make smaller classes and add classrooms there. We wanted to do more expansion at Caudill, but that didn't get approved. So we need this support all the time, so that we have the resources to do it. I think we currently put together a new strategic plan that talks about exactly the things you talked about, creating a more seamless curriculum K-12, where we can put the right professional development in place and develop the programs properly. Unfortunately, these things, they take time. And I think we all hear you loud and clear, and I wish I could snap my fingers and it would be done, but it just takes time, and this type of feedback is very helpful. I mean, I'm open personally to have the discussion to talk about it more. It's great to hear you come out so strongly in favor of that. But there's one thing that's undeniable, and I think everybody in the room agrees, we all want smaller class sizes. We all want smaller class sizes. I think enrollment's up over the last 4 years, 120 students. I mean, it's a big number. It's a big number, and we just don't have the space, unfortunately.
I do have to say, though, I think with the capital project, it is really a valid point, because we have said all along, it's going to be a rough year. You know,
Yeah, no
it's
doubt
going to be
about it.
rough. So to compound that with the changes in the curriculum and the change in the class, I think they're,
Agreed,
it's a valid
100%.
consideration.
So we should, I mean, I'm open to having that discussion, and if it has to be publicly, then it should be. And maybe we need to bring Mr. Morash here to talk about a little bit about what was behind the decision and how we got there.
And how was the departmentalization piece going to be rolled out? Was it going to be from day one, or was it going to be something that was gradually then? Because those are maybe things that would...
Yeah, two things. I think I'm hearing two main points, which is departmentalization, and not necessarily that it's a bad thing, but what is the approach? What is the support that's in place? What is the PD? We are in this budget increase. We have a pretty significant increase to PD. So we are considering those things. Dr. McDonald would be involved supporting, of course, Mr. Morash, who I know has done an awful lot of planning. I don't have all the details for you this evening. I'm happy to bring him here for the board to explain this departmental model that he has been planning. And even, I do agree that what I'm hearing is that maybe the grade level parents haven't heard enough about it as well. So maybe we have more work to do there, and I certainly acknowledge that. I think the class size is I know it's related, but I think there may be a bigger discussion to have. I will say in some districts, the board set policy on class size. It's not required. Many districts don't, but that is something we could do, because I just glanced at the middle school numbers. They're all low to mid-20s in grades 6, 7, and 8. Again, I recognize they're still a year away from middle school. They're younger.
From a developmental standpoint, every year is different. Kids change every year. So to put a 9-year-old in a class with 25 kids, and to put a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old, every year they grow, they become more independent, and they learn to advocate for themselves. So I think also, just looking from a child development standpoint, maybe in the middle school it's not as big of a deal for them to have class sizes hovering in the mid-20s. I think for this, especially for this class, it is a very, very big deal. And I think the only reason why the class is doing well overall, and when you hear the general kind of tone of 4th grade for this class, it's because those class sizes are under 20, and the teachers can kind of, intervene throughout the day in a productive fashion, not only academically, but social, emotional, and
Well, it sounds like that's a factor, meeting that group, because when my daughter was in 4th and 5th, she had 29 kids in her class, just so that you know, so it did go higher for both 4th and 5th grade, which I was very upset, like you were, as well. Luckily, they did well, but it sounds like maybe the grouping of kids is something that needed to be taken into consideration.
Well, you
'Cause
know,
it
I
seems like
sit
it's
on the
definite.
task board, and I always say, Casey and Marino are the best judges of like the character of class, right? Overall, and they will tell you if they were sitting here that this grade in particular is one of the worst grades from a social dynamic standpoint that they've seen in several years. They compare it to like the current 11th grade, and that they have not seen a group of kids, just the interpersonal dynamic. You know, when you put a group together, this is what happens, right? Since however many years that is. Okay. You know, so it's very, very concerning that the administration thinks that it's a good idea to do a major construction plan, departmentalize, and increase the class sizes by 20 to 25%. Just from just basic logic tells me that that is not right. I'm not an educator. I work in healthcare.
But I am an educator, and so even with that, with Marash, God bless him, and I don't mean any disrespect to him, but he's new here, and we've been here for a long time, and to come in and sort of, you know, make such a huge leap in change is tough, particularly this, just to what Therese is saying. The other thing is, you know, I don't have anything to prove. I'm here because I'm a parent. I'm not looking for tenure. I'm not looking to make my big mark. I'm just here because I love kids. This is my passion. Whether I was a parent of them or not, I care about all kids. This is what I went to school for. I'm working on my doctorate for. I love education. I love children and watching them grow and develop. To your point, Robert, I wanted to say I can appreciate the wanting the dialogue that really should be coming into play when we're talking about these type of things. But I also think what's key there, what's missing, the elephant in the room is disenfranchisement of people. And when you get to situations like this where parents, people in the community, the whole school community, and their voices are not heard, they don't want to come out. They don't want to have a discussion. For what? It's a waste of time. It's what, almost 9 o'clock, or after 9 o'clock, they could be doing this, that, or the other. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to make sure that when parents do come out, or when the whole school community comes out, because that's what we should be developing, right? A whole school community, involvement of parents, involvement of the greater community, businesses, churches, whatever it is that can support us, that when they come out, they should be heard. And it shouldn't be to sort of brush off, or if we need to do that, then it shouldn't be that. And if you start hearing them and being responsive, I really think that you would get a lot of people coming in and wanting to have these tough conversations with you and be, you know, and if we're proactive about it, I think that you would have a lot more people coming out to support, because like Therese, I talk to parents all the time, whether in kindergarten or first grade, we could be on the soccer field, wherever, and you should hear, a lot of people are very frustrated and very disappointed in some of the things, because I was a parent that was going out there talking about, we need to support this budget for this big thing, because this school, and, you know, Lori, for what? We're not heard anyway. Everything they do, I had someone tell me this a couple weeks ago. Everything the district does, when they put up a referendum, I'm voting no. You know why? Because they're not concerned about my kid. That's unfortunate. It's an ignorant way of thinking, but it is how people think, and so we have to look at that as well.
Okay. I think, in all fairness to Mr. Marash, also, I think, you know, for him to have the opportunity to discuss his plans, his rollout, I think he has to have a conversation with the parents. You know, grade level meeting, I think, is greatly needed here, and really have an honest discussion of what the plan is, and maybe then there would be more confidence in the rollout of it, and there needs to be more discussion, you know, and it is about communicating it.
It is, and I think that no matter how the rollout of the departmentalization is, I don't think anybody's going to support increasing the class size at the same time.
Okay, and you know, again, I just want to emphasize, because he's not here, he has gone through a process. There is a PPLT committee. It has staff members, it has administrators, it has parents on that committee. But I do hear, and this is valuable, that the grade level parents at this point have apparently heard about the plan but don't have an awful lot of detail, and there are questions still out there. So we'll bring that back to John Morash. We do have a meeting in the morning, and we certainly will get back to you. And at some point, there has to be a grade level communication, possibly even a grade level meeting, and we will follow up.
Can you come to the microphone? Thank you.
I'm just going to take a second to get there.
That's okay. Take your time. Take your time.
I'll get there. How are you?
I'm Donna Martouche, and I have to tell you that I'm here from Tuckahoe. I'm at 15 Armavilla Avenue. My first board meeting that I'm actually attending, I watched them on television. I was joking with Mr. Albano yesterday about how I spent my break catching up on some old meetings. I heard some really important conversations here today. I do agree with what Lori just said. I have heard a lot in the last few years about people feeling unheard. None of those people are in the room at this particular moment, but that might be something that have occurred long before I engaged in those conversations. I want to begin by saying thank you to all of you, because none of you are in an easy seat and you have really difficult decisions that you have to make, and it is a volunteer time, and we're trying to make decisions for all kids, K through 12. Everyone has kids in different grades, and I know, having been in multiple different seats, they're not easy to do, and often there's lots of things you can't even explain that makes the decisions difficult to help everyone understand sometimes. Michelle, I heard you say at the last meeting that you weren't aware that there are students who are getting picked up as far as the busing is concerned. They're getting picked up earlier and dropped off later. They are, so if we're not changing anything in regards to the bus, I know that that impacts my daughter as well. If we could make sure that that is not the case, that would be really helpful.
I could just add to that, because the information that we received regarding the ridership didn't address that very point.
Okay.
So, to look at just a number of students who are riding, if they're on a route like that, well, maybe that's the reason why they're not riding on
Correct.
it. So that is the kind of information that we really need to dig deeper into and take a better look at, and maybe just changing some of the routes and those types of issues will alleviate some of the traffic concerns, because there will be more ridership.
Right.
So that's what we've asked as a board, because we felt like, let's try that first, and parallel trying different things and getting more information, and then relook at it again next year.
Great, thank you so much for that. And to speak a little bit to the occupational programming at BOCES and not being able to do that as well, I understand that there's choices that have to be made. Just looking at a secondary component, because we spent a lot of time talking about elementary, I think it's just really important to note, if you look at Tuckahoe's enrollment, it starts to drop when you get to high school. You get to secondary school and you have to start asking, why are our students choosing to go somewhere else, or why are our families choosing to go somewhere else? What could we do to have them invested here? Some of those answers are involved in electives that may be available, colleges that they may want to pursue later. But also we know that with high-stakes testing, there are students who really have difficulty meeting the same standards as everybody else, and not having options like the occupational programs at BOCES really limits their ability to have choice. So I know that you have to make these decisions, but when we're looking at graduation rates and choices for high school kids, I think that it's something that we need the conversation to continue about, because our children really do need those choices, and what we're starting to see is an increased either dropout rate or students choosing or having to go to other places because they can't get to wherever they need to get to in order to obtain a diploma. So I don't have the numbers as far as how that impacts Tuckahoe, but I do know that parents have chosen to take their students elsewhere from 9th grade through 12th grade. You see your enrollment go down after 8th grade. And that is something to think about if you really want to engage the community. And last comment that I just want to make is about the guidance, which I am so happy that you guys are doing, because you don't have to necessarily implement it. We do have to have K through 12 curriculum, but it is also suggested that no guidance counselor or counselor ever have a caseload more than, and that's not a regulation, it's a suggestion, but it's kind of crazy when you think about it, more than 250 students. So when we're talking about spreading someone from K through 12, it's a great first step, but I just would love for us to be really careful about how we're using them, what that instruction is going to look like. There is a real specific purpose behind why that's being suggested by the State Education Department, and if we don't have the ability to implement that, I think that we're losing something that could be very valuable. So I'd just like us to keep that in mind.
And that's a very important point that you're making. Just to add for the audience, and you may know this, but this person would join a staff of 6 other mental health professionals, 3 psychologists and 3 guidance counselors. So our student counselor ratio is very good and will only get better with this. And this evening, now that it is officially adopted, we've done some preliminary work as far as defining the job responsibilities, but now we will really discuss with the entire support staff team how this fits in. But I think it's certainly an enhancement, and it will enable us to really do more in the way of our SEL goals.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience? Is that it? Okay, so we will move on to the agenda, consent agenda. Number 1, approve the consent agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda items 2 through 12. Is there a motion? Rob, second. Pete, discussion?
I would just mention that items 9 and 10 are tax certs in the tune of about $150,000. And, at budget time, it's just to remind people we do have a tax cert reserve that has just over $3 million, and its purpose is so that we can make these payments when they come due.
And not have to bond them.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, we'll move on to business of the board. Number 1, award capital project bid. Whereas the Tuckahoe Union Free School District sought bids for the Tuckahoe Middle High School School Turf Replacement Capital Project, and whereas the bids received were open on April 9th, 2019 at 3:30 p.m., and whereas the Board of Education has decided to award the Tuckahoe Middle School High School Turf Replacement Capital Project with alternate number 3. Provide a shock pad as specified to the turf system, and now therefore be it resolved that the Tuckahoe Union Free School District hereby accepts and approves for contract award the bid of the lowest responsible bidder for contract number 2, Tuckahoe Middle School High School Turf Replacement in the total amount of $515,299, which includes $90,203 for alternate number 3, shock pad as specified to the turf system, to Sprinturf LLC, 146 Fairchild Street, Suite 150, Daniel Island, South Carolina. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the Board President to execute the contract number 2, Tuckahoe Middle School High School Turf Replacement between Tuckahoe Union Free School District and Sprinturf LLC, and be it further resolved that the Superintendent of Schools and Assistant Superintendent for Business are authorized and empowered to take all necessary or appropriate actions in order to further the purpose of this resolution and comply with the awarded contract. Is there a motion? P, second. Rob, discussion? All in favor? Okay, number 2, award capital project bid. Before I read it, I'm going to ask that we actually table this one, only because it has the alternate amounts in it for the doors. And I do want to just have a little more conversation with Russ. There might be a financial advantage to accepting the bid this way. But if there isn't, I think it opens up a little flexibility that we may need. So, I don't want to put it off a long time. If we speak with Russ, or Lee, speaks with Russ tomorrow and he says it's something we should proceed with right away, I'm more than happy to hold a special meeting this week and get together to take care of it. But with everything that we received over the last couple of days, I just want to see if we could leave a little flexibility in the budget if possible.
Particularly with the 8 doors.
Yeah, because it's $150,000. So because this bid includes those alternates. So as Rob said, yes, the doors were part of the original project, so was the Caudill field. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think we need to look at everything that's being proposed as an alternate, and why not leave this as an alternate? If there's, a financial benefit to doing that. I'm not sure of that answer.
The only thing, I'm sorry,
Go
Peter,
ahead.
did you?
No,
want to
I
say
think, I was just going to say something I think Russ said, though, is that may mean the bid has to be rebid.
Maybe,
at that point.
I just would like a little more information, because I think it was bid separately. I don't know, I don't have the answer, and I'm not comfortable going forward until I have the answer, but I'm one person in the board, we can move
The only
forward if
thing-
you're comfortable moving forward.
I'm sorry. The only thing I would tell you, though, is if you choose to award the infrastructure without the doors, then this bid is no longer valid. We have to
Right.
redo it because this bidder would no longer be the low bidder.
Right,
This
okay.
bidder is the low bidder because it's all three things together.
Okay.
So that's just a piece of information.
Lee, how long would the bidding process take to rebid?
We wouldn't necessarily have to rebid, but we would have to revalidate whether the second low bidder, if you took out certain of the alternates and a different bidder became the low bidder, we would have to go through the whole process of scope review and reference checking.
Okay.
Which is your concern in particular, the gym doors, or both the gym
Well, I
doors
think
and the auditorium exit into the parking lot?
My concern right now is just the overall budget. So when we, because these will be bid together, then there's less flexibility. That's my concern. It might be the right thing to do. I asked for a lot of additional information, we received it today, and I just want a little more time with it, that's all.
So I'd be comfortable voting on it, but I think if you would like some more time and it's not going to hurt us to have a few more days, I'm fine.
We may wind up with the same
I'm
exact
fine
thing
with-
2 days from now,
Fine.
you know?
I'm
and-
personally fine with
But
tabling it,
we'd have to approve it.
but it'd have to be,
And
relatively
when's our
quickly.
next meeting is?
Well, we can
No,
hold
we
a
can do-
special
we can do a
meeting.
special
We can
meeting
do whatever
Okay.
we- you know.
I mean, so I think if somebody wants a little more time to review it, I think it's fine to do that, in my opinion. Because if it's not going to hurt to, it's always good to have more information and more thought, so I'm okay with waiting. If that's what Michelle prefers, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so I'm going to motion to table it. Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
With the contingency that we're going to have a meeting this week. We're going to have to put together a meeting to get to, and I just want to put out there, it may be the same exact thing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with the discussion, if it winds up being that we're going to risk losing that 15%
Right,
reduction,
right,
we shouldn't
right.
take that risk, but we certainly can have more
I would
discussion
agree
about it.
with that, yes. Okay, so Lauren, where are we at?
Motion, did you second?
I second.
All in favor?
All right, thank you. Okay, number 3, and we will decide on a date for that meeting, and Lauren will post that tomorrow, okay? 3, approve a proposal, resolve to approve the proposal from Jumpstart Tutoring to provide SAT or ACT prep for the 2018-19 school year not to exceed $30,000. Is there a motion? Pete, second. Rob, discussion?
Just, we thank the Carapella family. This is only possible through their generosity. They made a significant donation to our district, and we're happy to provide this for our students.
Yeah, I think that, this is something really, it's a very unique opportunity. I don't know really any other district that offers something like this that can come to us through a gift, and it is available to all of the junior class, I believe. So
Yes,
it's an opportunity for all, and I really would put out there that, all should really take advantage of it. Whether they're doing their own individual tutoring also along with this, but it's really a great opportunity for all students. All in favor? Number 4, adopt Southern Westchester BOCES budget. Resolve to approve the 2019-20 estimated administrative budget for the Southern Westchester Board of Cooperative Education Services in the amount of $11,731,787. Tuckahoe's share is $134,849. Is there a motion? Pete, second. Cynthia, discussion? All in favor? Number 8, approve special education recommendations. Oh,
5.
I'm sorry, I missed one. Oh, I missed a whole bunch. Okay, where are we?
Number 5.
Number 5.
The BOCES trustees.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I went the wrong way. Okay, approve Southern Westchester BOCES trustees. Resolve that one vote be cast for Catherine Draper, Lynn Fraser McBride, and Robert Johnson to serve as trustees on the Southern Westchester Board of Cooperative Educational Services for the time period of July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022. Is there a motion? Cynthia, second. Rob. Discussion? All in favor? Number 6, approve a property tax report card. Resolved that the Board of Education of the Tuckahoe Union Free School District approve the property tax report card for the 2019-20 school year and authorize the Assistant Superintendent for Business to submit it to the State Education Department. Motion? Rob, second. Pete, discussion? All in favor? Number 7, adopt a budget. Resolve that the Tuckahoe Union Free School District's 2019-20 proposed budget be set at $35,482,700, and that this proposed budget be voted on by the community at the annual meeting on May 21st, 2019, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. Is there a motion? Rob, second. Cynthia, discussion? Okay, I just want to add that again, and I said it earlier and I'm going to say it again, that while this is our budget and this is the budget that has been set, that the comments that were said tonight will be under consideration and that they have been heard. All in favor? Okay, and we'll move on to personnel. Accept personnel recommendations. Resolve to accept personnel recommendation items A through H as outlined below. Is there a motion? Rob, second. Pete, discussion?
Michelle, if you don't mind, I don't think I've ever done this before, but I'm looking at one particular appointment, which is an E&L teacher. And Stephanie Silva has been with us as a nearly full-time teacher. She's taken on the assignment. I'm going to make a request to the board. We had a family move in, and E&L, as you know, is a required program for our students. She has taken on this assignment from April 2nd. So I would make a request to the board to adjust this. Lauren, I don't know if that is possible. And she's done it willingly, and she's done an excellent job. So if we can adjust that April 2nd through April 3rd, would be 2023 would be the end of her probationary period. And if the board is willing to consider that, I would ask that we do that. I think it is fair for the teacher.
Oh, I see. You're saying she's okay.
She has taken on this. It's a legal requirement. If a family arrives, that we provide the program, and she has done this and done
so we're going to amend that to April 2nd, 2019.
Therefore, the probationary period, Lauren, would end April 3rd, 2023.
Okay.
I thank the board.
Do we need a
for
motion to
considering
amend, or no? Lauren, do we?
April 1, you mean?
No. April 3rd.
Oh, excuse me,
April 2
excuse
and
me,
April 1? Yeah.
excuse me, April 1, 2023, ending.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren. Okay. We don't need a motion to amend that? No, nothing. We're okay.
You're asking me to change it, so then if you do first.
Okay. Okay, so all in favor?
You need a motion first?
Did we motion?
I think she needs a
You
motion.
motioned on the old
We did
one, so
motion.
you want a motion on the new one?
On the amended, okay. Is there a motion on the amended? Rob, second. Pete, discussion? All in favor? Okay. Number 2, approve a side letter. Resolve that the Board of Education of the Tuckahoe Union Free School District hereby approves a side letter of agreement dated April 23rd, 2019, by and between the district and the Tuckahoe Teachers Association, and authorizes the superintendent to execute the same. Is there a motion? Rob, second. Pete, discussion? All in favor? Okay, we'll now move on to the second opportunity to address the board. If anyone has anything else they want to say before.
Mike Gray, Tuckahoe Teachers Association President. I wish I could have said this sooner, excuse me, but I'd like to address some comments that were made during the last regular board meeting, I believe it was March 18th, in regards to the National Junior Honor Society. I want to thank you, Mr. Cipher, for speaking out and explaining what happened last year and why, unfortunately, there had not been a National Junior Honor Society so far this year. And we share the view that the board overreached and influenced the building level decision and a building level program. The middle school teachers that were involved in this program last year dedicated their time and their energy only to feel like that time and energy had been disregarded and frankly disrespected. And we couldn't, as teachers in good faith and good conscience, attempt to instill integrity and respect in our students and at the same time kind of sit back and ignore something like this. And with that being said, again, this is coming a few weeks after a previous special board meeting. But because of those comments that were made, we were, happy to be able to get 2 teachers, and it ended up being 3 total advisors, ready, willing, and able to kind of step up and be the advisors for the National Junior Honor Society this year. And I want to thank the board for approving those positions at the last meeting. I believe that was April 8th. And while it's later in the year than we would have hoped to get the program going for this year, we're confident that there is enough time, and I know wheels have already started to turn, to put in place the necessary procedures to make the National Junior Honor Society this year a success. However, I'll end with this, it's not going to be possible, can't be possible, without a mutual understanding and mutual respect for the established policies and procedures. Just to ensure that the program's integrity is maintained, and it can't be without that. Thank you.
Okay, Mike. Thank you for being here tonight. I think your last comment is what I had actually written to you, which was that there needs to be a mutual understanding of all of our roles. So those were actually my words to you. And while that was said at the last meeting, I want to make it very clear that was not a statement from this full board. Okay, so there was no admission of an overreach, and we could agree to disagree if that's how you want to leave it, but that's not what you just said. So I want to be clear, there was no admission by this board that there was an overreach, and in fact, my position is that it is this board's job to make sure that we represent and offer an equal opportunity to all of the students of this school district. That is our #1 priority, and that is our #1 role. And we also, Rob, who made the comment, has said again tonight that we're here to hear from this community and from the stakeholders of this community, and that is what we have done. So, if we're asking on one hand to be here, to be heard, so that people can feel that they are heard, and then to be asked to, turn a cheek, that's not the role of this board. The role of this board is to offer an equal and fair opportunity to all students. This board did raise our hand in favor of the appointment. We too wish it had come last year. It has been posted for a full year, as you know. So I want to just be perfectly clear, because there is no admission of an overreach on the behalf of this board.
So, Mike, I thank you for making that statement tonight. Clearly, there's a difference of opinion, and frankly, I do not want to continue to revisit this. My goal and why I volunteer my time and why I ran for this position and why I'm going to run again is because my interests are very clearly to have honesty, integrity in everything that goes on and do what's right for the children and the community. It's a very difficult balance, and until you're really involved and see how it works from the inside, it's not easy. And I didn't like what was done by either side, and because the children are the ones who suffered, regardless of how the teachers may have felt, how the board may have felt, how the administrators felt, the children were the ones who suffered. And that's why I felt it was important that we move forward. And I'm not going to go back and forth. I think it's clear we've gone through the mud, we ran through the mud. There's enough of that goes on in this community. And I think if we continue to have open and good dialogue, we'll come to good decisions, and we'll make good decisions and try and implement them however we can. So I thank you, and I support the administrators and the teachers, and I love the children and love the community. So I always try and balance that as best I can. when I make my decisions or when I make an opinion about something. But thank you.
If I could just make a comment, I just want to say that I find it a little bit disturbing, though, that, because although we suspected that the lack of volunteerism was due to some sort of retaliation, that was sort of a speculation. And I just find it a little disturbing that you just basically confirmed that basically it was done purposely, the lack of volunteerism, because of the perception that we overreached. So if you could, I'd love you to address that, because that really was disturbing to me.
No retaliation in any way, because I think, when you use the term retaliation, we're thinking now, a collective, pre-planned, motive, and that never happened whatsoever. I think, based on people's feelings about what happened last year, you did not have any middle school teachers who wanted to take on this position.
Okay, so so I understand. So you're saying that it's your understanding as the president of the TTA that because of the perception of overreach, that's why nobody volunteered.
Because of how the people who were involved in it last year felt about their time that has been put into it.
Because we were told some different things from staff about how, there just wasn't any interest, or it didn't work out for some people's personal schedule, but that was all bull, basically. It was all because of the perception.
Well, I couldn't say 100%, but I think that was definitely a part of it. I mean, listen, you have teachers every year who don't want to take on extra positions because of, family commitments and outside commitments, anything like that. So 100% was this the reason why nobody took it on? Well, no, of course not. But I think if you speak to the teachers that were involved in it last year, who did put that time and effort into it last year, I think that was a big part of why they chose not to this year. Absolutely.
Okay, good enough.
Okay, so we are not going to adjourn because we are going back into executive session. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and adding to the conversation. It is appreciated, and we will see you back here next month. Thank you.